The opinions expressed in the following programs are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of Rogers nor Rogers TV.
Hi, and welcome to Politically Speaking. I'm David Shearman. My guests today are Mayor of Georgian Bluffs, Sue Carleton, and the acting CAO, Niall Lobley. And it's a pleasure to have you both back again, because Niall, last time we talked, you were telling us about your particular position, but you've got a little promotion.
Yeah, little job title change. I'm still the Director of Community Services as well.
Ah, okay. So they gave you more, but didn't increase your pay.
I will take the fifth.
We will comment there.
It's always good to know that in a municipality there are staff who can step up for whatever reason, be it illness, be it someone moving on, whatever. Sue, I'm sure you must find it as the mayor that to have a variety of qualifications kind of in your back pocket does make the work a little bit easier as an elected official.
Yes, I would agree. And it's been fantastic having Niall step up and help us through this next process. So we really appreciate it.
Mm-hmm. Well, Niall, that really means that one of the jobs that you will be doing is recruiting your successor. And people don't realize that we've talked with a variety of municipalities about the role of a CAO, but the recruitment of a CAO is also an involved process. I had a look at the timelines that are laid out, and it's going to take, well, let's just say it might be a Christmas present.
Quite likely is where that will land, and simply because it's not a process that anyone wants to rush. And I think with our council, where 5 of them are working full time, it makes it harder to pull everybody all together. And we've decided to do this process as all of council rather than going out and hiring a consultant to work through it. I think this time we prefer to try it on our own.
That was my next question. Are you going to use a consultant, or you're going to do it on your own? It sounds like you're going to do it on your own.
Yep.
Yeah. Are you taking any advice on process from anywhere, or have you got your own process? The timeline seems to be fairly standardized.
So I think the process we're going to use is going to be working with HR, and there's so many online resources available that we can go to and look at to help us with determining, do we have the job description right? I think it even goes a little further into, does council actually know what we're going to expect of a CAO? So do we need to look at that piece as well to be sure that what we're asking the CAO to do is exactly what we want or need to have done? And be sure we have all of those kind of procedures in place before we really start the process, because otherwise, if we go out and we hire and then do what I feel has sometimes happened in the past, where we hire the CAO, we all sit back and go, okay, that's done, it's their job now, and we're good. But then we don't follow up and we don't make sure things are running right until we hit glitches. So I'd sooner not hit any more glitches.
Well, with all respect, Sue, given the experience of the last few years in Georgian Bluffs, I can understand exactly why you're making that comment. That is very true. The other thing to remember, I suspect, is that the CAO is the sole employee of the council, I believe.
Yes.
So, if you're not clear about what you expect and what the job description looks like, you can, as the employer, there can be problems.
So I think the accurate statement there would be, the CAO is the only employee of the township or municipality that council directs. Everyone is our employees, but we are not in a position to direct anyone other than the CAO.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yes, and let me phrase this as delicately as I can. the council has to all be on the same page in giving direction to the CAO.
Well, we don't necessarily all have to be on the same page, but we have to recognize that at the end of the day, it's the majority rules. So that's, to me, the plus of municipal government is we can all come in with opposing opinions. At the end of the day, we vote and make a decision of how we're going to move forward. We may not all have agreed with that to start with, but that's what we're going to support going forward, is what the majority has asked for.
And I've also noticed that in municipal minutes, there is a phrase which is very common. That is council directs.
Yes.
That's the operative word. Council directs staff or the CAO or city manager or whomever.
Yes.
And that is the operative word. You have given direction.
Yes.
And the flip side of that is it's the responsibility of the CAO to take the direction and fulfill it and do their job.
Yeah. Implement it. Yep.
Mm-hmm. And council members, this is really getting into the weeds, don't give direction to individual staff. That's the job of the CAO.
That's right.
Yeah. And sometimes that stuff gets really blurred.
It does, yes.
Now you're smiling a bit there.
Yeah, no, I think it's an interesting position. It's going to be one of the only pieces of the running of the municipality over the next few months, which I'm not going to be involved in. As the current acting, I step back from this process, and it will be worked through with council and human resources, as the mayor said. And I look forward to the next person stepping into the role and taking the township forward.
Now, just out of curiosity, when you're acting CAO, this kind of gives you a flavor for something else, doesn't it? Like you've not had that experience in the past of being an acting CAO yourself, have you?
No, so it's one of those exciting opportunities because you get to broaden your experience, broaden your CV and your resume, and get a chance at testing the waters on something. So yeah, I'm certainly enjoying the task. Hopefully, I'm up to it, and we'll see where it goes.
Very good, very good. Yeah, and you get to steer all those lovely things like budget and bylaws and various operational bits through council. Not just your own department, but all of the departments through now.
Yeah. So again, looking forward to that. The good news is in terms of dollars and cents, I've been involved in organisations of a similar sort of size. So, I'm looking forward to rolling up my sleeves and getting stuck into the early stages of budget preparation for 2024 as we get later on into the year, and helping the organisation in whatever way I can as we go through this transition.
Sure. Well, it'll be something that everyone will watch, and I'm quite sure will be talked at great length at the various coffee shops around town. Everyone will speculate until the announcement is made. And Sue, that's your job.
That's right.
So we'll see what happens. Like I say, it looks from the schedule, it looks like it'll be close to Christmas before there will be a decision rendered. Okay, well, let's move on to a couple of other things. If anyone is watching this on first broadcast, which is in the first full week of June, you'll know that breathing is not easy these days. That we have got, I don't remember in my lifetime this level of smoke. Occasionally we'll have a whiff of forest fires out of northern Ontario, but not like we have experienced with the high levels of poor air quality. And and Georgian Bluffs has just, as we are taping this, just instituted a complete fire ban. Who wants to comment on that one?
I can jump in. Yes, certainly. This has been a unique spring. In the 10 or 11 years that I've been here, as you say, I've caught the occasional smoggy day caused by Northern Ontario forest fires. But to have the level of smoke that we've got present at the minute is quite unprecedented. And the fact that you can actually smell. I mean, I think that's the thing that really surprised me on both Saturday morning and this morning. You open a window and you can actually smell the smoke drifting down. It's not just the haze in the air, it's the smell. So, yeah, very, very dry spring so far. I'm sure folks have recognized that grass is dry, trees are dry, and so perfect conditions for fires. And I know that the fire chief met with other fire chiefs this morning across the county. And yes, as of today, there's a total fire ban in the township, and that will remain in place until further notice.
And it's, as I was reading it, it is quite strict. It does not allow for cooking fires, does not allow for warming fires. If there is no other option, you can use a fire to cook, but there's got to be no other option, and it's got to be put out immediately.
Yeah, it really is. It's the combination of factors. We've both had it very, very dry, and so the ground conditions are extraordinarily dry. But there's also very low levels of humidity in the atmosphere, and we have had a breeze. So we've got absolutely perfect conditions for combustion to occur. And so, yeah, the decision made by the fire chiefs and the advice received is total fire ban.
Well, that may change some people's weekend plans, if nothing else. People do like to kick back over a fire, and hey, no s'mores.
No s'mores for the time being, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Well, we'll just have to wait and see. As some of the farmers I was talking to last Sunday said, pray for rain. So we'll just have to keep that one open. Well, let's move on to another one. And I think this is a very significant plus, if I can, for Georgian Bluffs. There's an agreement for the compost site here in Owen Sound.
Yes. That was nice to be able to reach out and work with Owen Sound on that. And I feel the amount they came back asking Georgian Bluffs to contribute was very reasonable. And I mean, I think all of council would be open to looking at that again next year with some accurate data in place that we can actually know what we're paying for and such. But I think it's for us to try and go out and start our own compost site would cost way more than that. So our residents are already used to going there. So I think it's a really good plus for them. And I thank Owen Sound for being willing to work with us on it.
Mm-hmm. And I was there on the last weekend, and there was a massive pile of compost. And I mean massive. Had to be 25, 30 feet high.
I saw a picture of it.
Oh, so if you live in Georgian Bluffs, go get some compost if you need it. There's lots of it, and I mean it's there's still actually I think they've got a surplus of wood there still, but that's a whole other issue that the city will deal with. But it's the other thing I was going to say too, Sue, is that it's a good sign that the two municipalities can come together and come up with an agreement like this relatively quickly.
Yes.
And
yes, it is.
I watched the city council meeting where that was approved, and good feeling there. Yes. I trust the same was felt around Georgian Bluffs.
Yes, it was.
Good. Now, dare I ask, what's next? You can't say. I know. But is it fair to say negotiations or conversations are continuing, Sue?
It is. And we actually have I forget what morning next week, a joint physician recruitment meeting with Owen Sound. Mm-hmm. And I think Chatsworth is involved in that one as well. So working together with our neighbors. Maybe Meaford's in there too. I should go back and look at the list.
Well, that's really interesting because I had not been aware that it was a joint recruitment committee. That's great. That's
Well,
great.
we've got it. We're having a meeting about physician recruitment to talk about how we can all work together. So Tim Simmons, city manager, is somewhat facilitating all of that and has sent out an agenda, and we'll get together next week and have discussion about it.
Sure. Well, all you lose it with conversation is a little time.
That's right.
So hopefully that will pay some dividends, because I know physician recruitment is a huge issue.
Yes.
Across Grey Bruce. And those who watch this show, actually, we just did a show on the whole hospital shutdown in shutdowns across the province, and we know what that's all about with Chesley and the ER in Chesley. So that's good, and we may experience that this summer as well if Grey Bruce Health Services has already said be prepared. So we've got to get to hear this. Yeah, let's hope not.
Yeah.
Let's hope not. Let's move on to another one. Is that, and we've talked about this before, but you were having there's a proposal coming forward to assess your road conditions. You want to touch on that one, Niall?
Yeah, no, I can do. So actually, they're out and about. So if you happen to have been traveling through the township over the last few weeks, last couple of weeks, last week or two, you might have seen some fairly well-equipped scooters and bikes on sidewalks and pavements, and you may have caught one or two of the cars passing through the roads. They have all kinds of cameras and kit hanging off the sides of them to undertake a study of pavement condition, basically, and road condition across the township. And it's something we do periodically. And in fact, we're using the same company, I believe, in Meaford have used them. So even if you've not been in the township, you may well have seen the vehicles out and about, because I know they've been working in Meaford over the last few weeks as well. So the company comes out once every couple of years and undertakes a study of our road network. And the information they provide tells us what condition it's in, how it's changed since the last time the study was done, and how the municipality might be able to respond to that to maintain its road network.
Do you get a grading on each road or each section of road that tells you? I gather this is it's pretty in depth from what I've been told. You're told the condition of the base, the condition of the surface. Do you count potholes?
It does count potholes, and potholes definitely are one of the things it will touch on. And yeah, we get a fairly detailed report back, and ultimately it comes down to a pavement quality index, a PQI, for sections of road, which help tell us a little bit about the condition of that road. But yes, there's a lot of work goes into it, a lot of analysis done, and the technology that's available has come on so far. It really is quite impressive what they're able to capture in a relatively short amount of time and cover the entire network.
But it's interesting they're using bicycles to do this too.
Yep. Bikes and e-scooters. I don't know whether they deployed any of the e-scooters in the township here, but yeah, the company does use e-scooters, and they got phones strapped on them and cameras and all kinds of things like that. So they're able to. The technology really is quite impressive. What you can put into the hand, into the power of computing you can put into the size of your hand now, means that the technology is very, very mobile, and so can be mounted to quite lightweight vehicles. And so they'll have also been looking at the sidewalks. And again, we don't have a massive sidewalk network in the township, but they will have been out and about on the sidewalks around Shallow Lake and the other places where we do have sections of sidewalk, and looking at the condition of those as well.
Sure. Well, it's going to be interesting to see, because how shall I say it? I guess so. You may get an index of pavement quality, but the real tell is how many people call you to complain about their potholes.
That's true. That's a common one. And you can't blame people. They feel they're paying taxes, and for some people, other than garbage collection, the condition of the roads is all they feel they're getting for their tax dollars.
Sure. Well, we know it's a lot more than that, but I hear you loud and clear, because it's those are the two key tangibles
Yes.
for most people. It's is my road potholed, and does my garbage get picked up?
That's right.
Yeah. They forget things like somebody's got to plow the road, and who provides the fire protection in the community until you have a fire. And which ask you that there's a subsidiary question out of that. Have you had has the fire chief reported a lot of grass fires this year, or has it been a relatively normal year?
I think we've been okay this year. Looking at the latest reports that have come from the chief, it hasn't been something that we've seen a significant amount of in the township at this point. And let's hope it stays that way just now.
For sure.
That comment made yesterday was that we may end up having 2 grass fire seasons this year if we don't soon get some rain.
Right. Very true.
Yeah.
Very true. Yeah. So, let's see, what else have I got here? Oh, 2023 tax rates. Are they set? Or I know they're coming to the upcoming meeting of council, but what is the proposal for tax rates in Georgian Bluffs?
I'm going to go off memory and say it's 3.92% or 3.62.
I think that's the combined rate, isn't it? That's the combined rate once you factor in the county taxes. Yeah.
Right. Which is really what we all end up paying no matter where we are. Yeah. And that's what they call a blended rate, I believe, because it includes county, it includes the municipality, and it includes education.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it is what it is, as my son says. There's not a lot we can do about it, but at least now we know. Now, Niall, will you get started on next year's budget pretty soon?
Yes. So I think the paper that goes before council tonight is really the last part of a budget cycle. And budget cycles, as you know, extend over quite a significant period of time. And so, I think there's a keen desire for us to start early. We don't have an election this year, which is always an interesting one when it comes to municipal budget setting, because really you can't do a great deal without council being present and able to provide some direction around budget. And obviously in an election year, that falls right when you want to be in the start of those conversations with council to prepare the following year's budget. So this year, without an election in the way, we'd be keen to start budget as we come into the late summer and the fall, and start building towards a 2024 budget. So yeah, we'll be starting soon.
So the staff will be preparing their lists and trying to figure out what's needed as opposed to what it would be nice to have, and away you go.
Well, yeah, we're looking at the capital needs of the organisation and the needs that we have to continue providing the services, and any areas of service provision that we've become aware of either through the conversations we've had with council or from community members that we want to put forward out there and see, if there's a desire to work into those areas. So yeah, lots of work.
Well, Sue, you get the summer vacation, sort of.
Oh, sorry, there's no summer vacation.
What, politicians don't have a summer vacation?
Not. No.
Well, you'd know.
Yeah.
Well, it's
not much of a summer break.
Yeah. Which actually leads me to another question. Does council take a summer break, or does it meet in July and August as well?
We meet through July and August. We used to take a couple of weeks off, and I couldn't tell you what the schedule looks like this year. We'll miss the week of AMO in August. But really, the municipality keeps going, so the business keeps going. Mm-hmm. To me, there's not often times that you can just say, no, we're not going to meet this month.
Right.
And our agenda package tonight is quite full, and because we've got a lot going on. So if we want to keep things moving, council has to keep meeting to keep dealing with the business.
Right. Right. The business doesn't stop even though people may be on vacation.
That's right.
Yeah.
Even more so in an area where people are coming here on vacation. So there are the residents that are here, and then they go on vacation somewhere else, and then there are all the residents that may not pay a great deal of attention to municipal affairs in the area until they come here, and they come here just when everybody else is wanting to leave. So there's an influx and a change, definitely a balance as we move into the summer.
And they can be ratepayers too, because if they own a vacation property, they are entitled to vote and they pay taxes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's a really interesting mix, because I know some municipalities do take a summer vacation period or hiatus because of staff vacations and councillors all taking off to AMO, which, by the way, is it in London this year?
Yes, it's in London. Yeah.
Okay. There's another question I can ask you, Sue. Delegations. Are there any delegations planned from Georgian Bluffs, or are you going with another municipality?
We haven't talked about that one yet at Georgian Bluffs, but it's on the county council agenda for tomorrow.
Okay.
So there's quite a list of things that the county will be looking into.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that the list that the county looks into doesn't mean you'll get an audience with the minister. It just means that because they also filter the list, don't they? They will say, we'll talk to you about this, but not that.
Yep. Well, and I'll use the example of physician recruitment. We went together with Owen Sound on a delegation back at Roma in January. So that's not likely one that we would get another shot at this year anyway. We'll have to look at different things. So staff at the county have put together a list of possibilities, and council will have to vote on that tomorrow as to what we think is the most important.
So county council, so is it more likely that Georgian Bluffs won't make a deputation if the issue is covered on county council or by county council?
It would make sense to only go and support county council on that. We haven't actually talked about it at Georgian Bluffs, whether there's specific items we'd like to delegate ourselves on.
Sure, but you can join the county delegation.
We can join the county and support them.
Sure. So it becomes instead of 2 or 3, 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 or 10 in the same room with the minister.
Yes, and rather than say all 9 municipalities going and trying to get a delegation individually, we can all go as one, which frees up a lot more time for other delegations.
Sure. What do you think will be the big issues at AMO this year? I mean, I know Roma was housing, and rural cemeteries was the other one that you and I talked about. But what are you expecting?
Oh, heavens. I don't know. I would think the housing, homelessness, long-term care, there'd be issues like that. Off the top of my head, I can't think of others.
Yeah. There's a regular laundry list, but it will be interesting to see what happens. Or, as we referred to, we've talked about before at Roma, didn't happen in terms of government announcements. Like, often these conferences are used to announce something, but since the most recent admitted government has come in, they have not used Roma and AMO to make announcements.
No, and they really didn't at Ogre either at the end of April.
Yeah. Well, we shall see. And on that note, we'll take a quick break and come back. And yeah, we got more to talk about. I'm David Shearman. This is Politically Speaking, and we'll be right back.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
October 5th, 2014, my daughter was hit by a train. She was walking along the sides of the tracks, and it shattered her world.
Hi, and welcome back to Politically Speaking. I'm David Shearman. My guests today are Sue Carleton, who is the mayor of Georgian Bluffs, and Niall Lobley, who is the acting CAO. And we've been having a great conversation about all kinds of things. And there's more to come, more to talk about. And while we were on break there, we were having a little bit of a conversation about the various conferences that happen every year, every 6 months. And the point was made that I think the real goal of these conferences, no, people, these are not junkets. Let's get that out of the way. These are actually working meetings. But the key for places that happens for places like AMO, the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, and Roma, is not always the announcement, but the networking. It's the people you see. And would you say that's you're nodding your head there, Sue? You think is that one of the real benefits of those meetings?
It is being able to sit and talk with other people from different municipalities and find out they may have the same issues, but maybe they're dealing with it in a little different way. And so you get to come back with some new ideas just from talking to other people.
Yeah. And Nell, will you be going to AMO yourself?
Yes,
No,
I am.
Sue, yeah, I believe we have a strong delegation from council. I won't be attending this year. That's not something we can squeeze in this year for me.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, would it be not unusual for some staff to go then?
Well, I believe in the past it has been tradition that the CAO of the township will join. I've been to an AMO conference in the past. I think I've been to two as staff in the past. So yeah, staff do attend, but generally speaking, it tends to be general managers, city managers, CAOs, members of council, and certainly when it comes to some of the more specific and certainly some of the larger municipalities where they have commissioners and so on and so forth, it drips down to those levels particularly where there are topics of particular interest to departments and teams and so on and so forth. But yes, traditionally, I understand the CAO would typically go from the township as well as several members of council.
Mm-hmm. Sure. So, Sue, how many are going from Georgian Bluffs, or has that been set yet?
I actually don't know who else is registered for it. I'm thinking there's at least two others, but I'm not sure.
Okay. Yeah. And it's the value of these meetings, of course, is in the networking and in the stuff, the ideas that you pick up.
Yeah, the different sessions and some of the topics, being able to just sit and listen to even changes in legislation that are going to affect us. So there's a lot to be learned from these. It's
Sure.
not just a big party away. You spend a good 8 to 10 hour days sitting through sessions, being in the ballroom, listening to the speakers, and it's ongoing. It makes for a fast pace when you're there.
For sure. Oh yes. I've gone along as carrier of bags to AMO meetings, and yes, it's the meetings can be long.
Yes.
But always interesting. Always interesting. Well, let's move on to something else that at my little list here. STAs, short-term accommodation. Now, when we talked last, you were bringing in a project to do an assessment of short-term accommodations and inviting people to let them know, file, if there are reports. There was a web page, I believe, that people could file reports about short-term accommodations. How's that coming? Niall, do you want to tackle that one?
Yeah, I can. Yeah, so we've got a report that will be coming back before Committee of the Whole. So that's next week. So in a week's time, there'll be an update report from us with a couple of additional recommendations based on some of the early work that's been started. We've certainly taken the recommendations and the direction that was provided at the start of the year and well on our way to implementing some of those things. We've checked a couple of boxes off, a couple of things have been completed, a couple of things are ongoing, and lots of work still to happen on this as we get into the season. We've certainly started to hear from community members around them. We don't yet have a significant volume of complaints, but we certainly have had people reach out after the conversations to share their thoughts and their comments, their concerns and their questions around short-term accommodation provision in the township. And so the next steps for us are really to see how summer goes as we start getting into sort of peak season toward the end of this month and through July and August. And of course, our hope is that residents and those that are visiting are able to coexist very happily. And so that's the hope. But we have certainly got the tools in place. And indeed, the nuisance bylaw, I think, goes for final reading this evening, which is going to be one of the tools that we have to rely on this year, one of the additional tools we have to rely on, where things perhaps are causing concern between neighbours and visitors. And so we've got that. We've got some great communication messages, which we're starting to work on right now. And we're looking forward to welcoming visitors to the area, and we're sort of working off the theme of visit like a local. And so really trying to encourage some good behaviours and working with short-term accommodation providers to encourage that behaviour in their visitors and their users. And as I say, where we are unable to find that happy ground, we have some tools in place this year to help manage those issues where they do crop up.
Good. Well, so one of your colleagues in the town of Blue Mountains was telling us on a previous show that they measure success by the decline of the phone calls that the deputy mayor receives. So
that would make perfect sense. Yep.
You will know your success by the declining phone calls. So we'll see how that goes.
Niall kind of touched on it there. It's encouraging people who come to visit to recognize that they're coming to communities where people live and this is their home. So it's not the vacation spot where, like a Daytona Beach or a Niagara Falls, where that whole area is devoted to tourists. People live here. They get up and go to work the next morning while you're on holiday in their community. So it's making them respect and understand that.
Sure. Well, let's move on to another little topic that has certainly from the agenda caused a lot of conversation, and that's the artificial turf proposal for the Derby Community Center. Now that's right into your ballpark, isn't it? Community services, recreation.
I feel comfortable in this one. It's not something I'm having to learn rapidly. So this is. I dare I say it's an exciting proposal. Exciting in insofar as it's definitely going to generate some opinions and some conversation. And so we had a robust conversation at committee of the whole a couple of weeks ago, and I suspect it will be a matter of some conversation this evening at council. And a unique proposal to come before us, and it not one that we were looking for in any way, shape, or form, but one that I suppose an entrepreneurial organisation saw an opportunity and has approached council and approached the township to say, does this fly? And so really that's the point we're at, is does this fly? And it's definitely generated some enthusiastic comments, enthusiastic conversations from members of community for something which, if it happened, would be a unique use of a facility in this area. So definitely an alternative. Having said that, of course, like so many things, there's another side to it. And so we have existing users of a facility. It's a community facility which has been there since the 1960s, 1970s, well loved. Many community members have held important life events in there, bucks and does, birthday celebrations, wedding celebrations. Community activities have gone on in there, and there are existing community users that use that facility. And so council has to, and staff in making any sort of recommendations on this, have to try and balance those existing uses with the potential for a change in use that's presented in a proposal of this sort. And so, we've had some great conversation. I'm confident there'll be some great conversation to come, and we'll get further direction on that coming out of this evening's meeting. And certainly, as the mayor alluded to earlier, we have a packed agenda, and one of the most robust correspondence files I've seen in quite a long time in municipal government.
I would agree with you. I've seen a lot of municipal agendas, but you're right. It's a full municipal agenda with lots of feedback. Sue, do you need your book of Solomon's Rules or something to make decisions?
No, that's what we have the clerk for. She keeps us on track.
But the actual decisions are the wisdom of the council.
Yes.
Yeah. So, well, it's always interesting, and that's, as the old expression goes, that's what they pay you the big bucks for. So, all right. Well, let's move on to another. You've got some interesting programs happening in Georgian Bluffs. One's called food cycling, and that's got nothing to do with bicycles, I take it.
No. That's a program that got signed up for and kind of sold out instantly.
Mm-hmm. What's it all about?
I'll speak to it. It's part of our climate change action plan, and it's been very well received. So I'll let him speak to it. He has more information than I do.
Yeah, so it definitely is, as the mayor said, very popular. Lots of enthusiastic community response to this one. So a number of municipalities have jumped on this. It was a project that sort of drifted down through the Municipal Innovation Fund, and is a partnership between a Canadian business, the Food Cycler, and Municipal Innovation to introduce the concept of alternative and different ways of dealing with kitchen and composting waste generated from the household. So the Food Cycler itself is not all that exciting. It's basically a compost bin that you have in your kitchen. You put your food scraps in it, and over a period of time, it heats them and macerates them and turns them from bulky kitchen things like banana skins and salad leaves and carrot ends and those sorts of things, takes that and makes it into a raw compost, which you can eventually use in your garden. So it basically speeds up that first part of the composting process right there in your kitchen. And we've had a great deal of uptake to participating in a pilot. The purpose of the pilot is really to figure out how much of an impact some technology like this might have on the garbage stream, both in Canada, across Canada, but in Ontario, and then certainly for us, what the impact could be on our waste stream in the township, because recent figures came out from earlier on this year suggest that upwards of 50% of household garbage that goes to landfill could be organic in nature. And so if we can find ways of getting that out from landfills, it certainly does save all the environmental impacts of going door to door and collecting garbage, but it also saves the methane that's released as a result of that breaking down in landfill sites.
It's interesting. When I was a kid, we had the compost bin. Say bin. It was a pot that sat on the kitchen counter. And the worst job I hated this as a kid. My mother would say, "Go empty the compost." And rain or shine, snow or heat, you went out, you dumped the thing over, and there was always stuff that stuck in. You had to wrap it, and you brought it back in, and until the next time, which was usually the next day. This sounds like taking that idea and putting it right onto the kitchen counter where stuff gets recycled right in front of you over time. Is that how it works now?
Absolutely. No more grabbing moldy tea bags out the bottom corner of that compost caddy that you've got in the kitchen. It all goes into the thing, and what comes out the other end is it's a dry. It doesn't smell, doesn't attract fruit flies. It's a dry, rich nutrient compost, which a few weeks later you can be adding to your pot plants.
Gee, fruit flies! I'd forgotten about them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They'll be back.
Yeah, we're getting to that time of year, beginning to get there.
True. Very true. Very true. Well, it'll be interesting to see how it works. When do you expect the results of that now?
So with as the mayor said, fully subscribed. We had 100 units available. We had a waiting list form after a few days. We're going through the process now of the payment process. Residents will get their units on July the 15th. We're having a giveaway day where residents will come down and collect their unit, get some instruction on how to use it, pick up the manuals and all those sorts of fun things, and they'll take it away. And then the 12-week pilot that they've agreed to participate in starts there and then. So the 12 weeks will run between mid to late July, through to the early part of the fall. The results of that from Food Cycler, the company, will be made fairly quickly. So I would anticipate we'll be back in front of council with some initial findings from that before the end of the year or very, very early into 2024.
Well, there'll be something else to talk about, Sue.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll put that one on the agenda for maybe the same time as you announce your new CAO.
Okay, could be close.
Christmas presents. Well, let's talk about another public event that's happening, and that's the raising of the pride flag in Georgian Bluffs. Sue, it's the progressive pride flag, which has I believe it's got the circle on it, and it's flying from the flagpole.
Yes. So we got a little bit of feedback on that. There are some residents not happy with that, but I think the goal, in my mind, with it anyway, is to promote that equity, diversity, and inclusion, and take away some of the fears that maybe people have around that. They see somebody different and they don't understand, so there's a bit of a fear, and maybe out of fear they somewhat attack or whatever, instead of just accepting that we're all different. Mm-hmm. And whether it's in an obvious way like that or in other more subtle ways, we are all different. So it's getting everybody to understand we need to allow for those differences and not be quite so sensitive to everything. I think even in the words we use, we become a little more sensitive to hidden meanings that weren't intended when people said something. So it's just to encourage people to be a little more open to other ways of life.
Right. And equity, diversity, and inclusion is one of those operative things, I presume, at the municipal level, at the staff level, and the administration level. Is that true, Niall?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think increasingly over the last decade, municipalities have made significant strides towards reflecting inwardly on the services that they offer and the communities that they serve. And realistically, we can only offer service from a position of lived experience. And so I think without lived experience, we can't imagine what it's like to be a member of a community that we're serving. And so I think it is incumbent upon municipalities and public sector organizations to reflect inwardly and to ensure that they reflect back the communities that they serve, that the municipal staff has the lived experiences which reflect the lived experiences of communities that we serve, so we're able to serve them in a better way. And so diversity, equity, and inclusion really are fundamental principles, I think, in terms of public service. You can't deliver good public service without having inclusion, diversity, and equity absolutely fundamental to the organization.
Noticed that in a recent court case which involved our Bluewater District School Board, the judges made it very clear that people have to be able to see themselves in our public service, in our systems, in our communities. And when they don't see themselves, that's when they feel excluded and less engaged. And very, very interesting decision, worth reading, actually. But that if that's the goal, to help people realize they're included, we're all in on this. So, well, it will be interesting to see, and it's good to see the municipality is stepping up. So, well done.
If I could add to that, David, I think it's important that we show leadership in that area. And I was away last week at Police Services Board conference. And one speaker there, that was his whole topic of conversation that he was talking to us about. And it was really interesting to listen to. And I think we can all learn from each other and learn to be a little more giving and forgiving.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And a little more accepting of each other. Yeah. Good. Well, there's also, and now this is probably crosses into your responsibility, rail trail maintenance. Ooh, gee, those old rail trails won't go away, will they?
No, thankfully, it's a wonderful experience. So, for anyone that might be listening that hasn't headed out and explored the rail trail through Georgian Bluffs, as it links through down to Owen Sound and over towards Parkhead and Hepworth ways. It's an amazing trail. It really is phenomenal. I've had the opportunity now to hit it in a couple of places and done the whole trail in a couple of times. It's certainly doable on a bike in a day. But it's an absolute phenomenal asset to the community, and well worth visiting. And so, we partner in the management of that with the South Bruce Peninsula ATV Club, and it is accessible by ATV. And so we're really delighted to have worked with them on a couple of great projects this year. So we had some washout on one section, and they've helped with some of the regrading work down there with some of their volunteers, both in terms of equipment and in terms of time and some materials supplied by the municipality. And also this year, some dust suppression has been put down to try and help it be a comfortable experience, whether you're there walking, cycling, or on your ATV. Help keep it a comfortable experience for those shared uses and for the neighbours of the rail trail who are trying to enjoy their yards and I would say normally campfires, but obviously not at their present time, but enjoying their yards next to the rail trail.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the other thing to remember is that when you're on that rail trail, you're touching history.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, really are. The thing that stunned me here, and I think we're going to have to find a way of getting a link onto our website from this. One of my colleagues here was showing the video of the last engine to use the rail trail going up the hill, and if it really is incredible to think how they designed the grades. Because I cycling up out of Owen Sound, the first time I did it, I was nervous that you're going to be you're going up the escarpment, and the escarpment's a big feature. Yet they managed to find the grade that just kept you going, nice gentle grade all the way up, so that those engines could haul up. And so really quite impressive. And not that long ago that last train went up there. So there is some video out there on the web of trains making it out of Owen Sound and going up the hill there towards Ben Allen, and quite an impressive piece of history right the way through our township.
Indeed. And I happen to know there's a couple of books, one from a local author who has since passed away, about that, the rail, not just the rail trail, but the history of the rail system. It's quite remarkable. And then you can jump into the old cement works at Shallow Lake and why they were built there, because of the marl bottom of the lake. And I could go on and on and on. But it's a great history lesson that you're literally touching when you ride the rail trail. Well, that's great. Well, we've got about 5 minutes left. So let's talk a bit, Sue, about Canada Day, looking forward. What's happening in Georgian Bluffs on Canada Day?
So Canada Day for Georgian Bluffs is at Big Bay, starting at 9 o'clock in the morning with a pancake breakfast. We'll raise the flag out there, and usually there's some singing. It may not be great singing, but we sing Canada Day and the Ontario song. And later in the day, Cobble Beach will be starting at noon with their full celebration that will include fireworks later in the day at 9:15. So it's a full day of different things. I have some notes here about some places to visit. Ice cream from the general store at Big Bay, Keppelcroft Gardens, the nearby parks and trails like Centennial, Cedar Hill, and Skinner's Bluff, and the Enchanted Forest at Cobble Beach. Plus, last Friday, Cobble had the dedication ceremony for 33 plaques along their trail system within Cobble Beach, which I think is 14 kilometers long. So there's lots of people to do and see, and I apologize. Apparently my dog has come to life here.
I could barely hear him, so you're good.
Oh, okay, good.
Your dog's not mic'd, so we're good. We're
good, okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's lots going in for Canada Day, July 1st in Georgian Bluffs.
Great. And if we want to look ahead, speaking of Cobble Beach, the Cobble Beach Concours will be happening the third weekend of September.
Yes.
16th, 17th. And which that's always a big event for people.
It is a huge event. Yes.
Yeah. And I should say that if, and I'll put a plug in here for Cobble Beach, if anyone wants to get in free, because you pay to get in, if you want to get in free, volunteer. They're always looking for volunteers.
Yes, they always need volunteers out there. Yes.
And I know in the past you get this really nice T-shirt or golf shirt,
yep.
and if you work it right, you volunteer one day and go to the show the next. And I've done it. It's great fun.
And you meet wonderful people.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you meet your neighbors. That's the other thing, because you never know who you're going to meet. And
well, and there's also the sections that will be in Owen Sound. There's certain things going on at the Roxy, and then what do they call the one Concours de Le Monde?
Concours de Le Monde, yes. Yeah. That'll be here in the city, and the Roxy will also be a part of it. And I think it's going to be a very interesting event for all of us to attend.
Yes.
And that's a wrap, folks. It's we're done, and you know what? I won't see you until the fall. So, Niall Lovely and Sue Carleton, always a pleasure to have you here. Have a good summer, and yes, we'll be back. And friends, thank you for being a part of Politically Speaking. I'm David Shearman, and we'll talk again.
Call the Rogers TV Viewer Response Line. Email us or connect with us on social media.
Connection. We all need it. We live for it. It makes us feel like we're a part of something.